There we go.
Hi, I'm Barbara Dill and I'm hanging out here with these capital area wood turners. Spent 2 days up here and we're doing multi-axis spindle turning mostly, and somebody's phone is ringing right now.
President calls.
So what I'm going to do today is make a three-sided goblet. I have a couple of samples here. You can make different sizes and shapes. And one's on the floor. And this video is going to be really fun.
There it is.
Oh good, here it is. So.
Okay.
At least 5 pounds.
Yeah.
This idea is taken from the quadrants that we've identified to help us think about multi-axis spindle turning. This particular piece here is arc-type parallel axis, and it has 3 axes that are 120 degrees apart. This is the very same spindle, but then the axes are twisted 120 degrees. So instead of going from 1 to 1, 2 to 2, and 3 to 3, on the twisted axis it goes from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and 3 to 1. It doesn't have to be twisted 120 degrees. It could be twisted any other degree, but that's what these are. And the curves are very symmetrical on these. Well, we can translate these ideas into different sizes of wood in order to create objects that we can use in a different way. So these are functional goblets or cups that can be used. I can cut a cove on that end, or I can make a V-cut, or this is a different size wood, so the cove looks even more extreme. Or I can cut a V-cut in, and maybe I'll do that on this demonstration. Instead of having a cove, cut a V-cut here, and then the axis. So first we just need to get this round. And now that that's a cylinder, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, I need my parting tool. I'm going to put
There's a parting tool right behind you on
a tenon on both ends.
the top of that red box.
Here we go.
There's hers.
I got one, Linda, thank you. And these tenons have nothing to do with four-jaw chucks at this point. These tenons are going to give me a way to visualize how to make each one of these axes the same depth of cut. So they don't have anything to do at this point with four-jaw chucks. On the top tenon, I'm thinking more about the size of the opening I want for that cup to be. On the bottom tenon, I'm thinking more about the fact of how big I want the bottom of this cup to be. I want it to be stable, so oftentimes the bottom tenon tends to be a little larger than the top one. And now, I'll use a pencil. If I'm using dark wood, I use a white piece of chalk. This is pretty light wood, so I'm going to mark the tenon just so I can see it visually. And now if you give me one of my 3-way plexiglass things, what I'm going to do is mark an axis, 3 axes on these. Center it, and then make a mark there. Excuse my head. Make a mark there. and here. Thank you.
Show the plexiglass.
Oh, here's
Yeah.
at home I have concentric circles with 120 degrees marked out on it, so it's easy to center something and then mark the 3 axes. And from these marks, could I have a magic marker, please? Feel like a surgeon in an OR room, please. Scalpula. All right, so I'll mark these 3 axes here. And then by eye, I will transcribe that axis to the other end, that axis to the front end. Now you can take much more care to make these more accurate. When you're making something like a 3-sided cup, it is important to be fairly accurate. Now where do you put the axes on the top and the bottom? Well, I usually put them in enough from the tenon, enough not to have them break out the tenon. And if you just sit down with a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and a caliper, you'll see that if an axis is placed there, you'll create an arc that intersects just about all the way out to there. So what we want is these arcs to intersect in 3 points. And if you just play around with some mechanical tools, you can get a good idea of how that works. And now I'm going to label them 1, 2, and 3. The same on the other end. 1, 3 is over here, 3, and 2. It's a mirror image on the other end. Normally, if I was not making something with light wood, I would put the numbers on the side so I can see it. But now I'm going to put them up here, causing a mild brain cramp. But if you're careful, the 2 is there, and it's waxed too. Thank you. So there, 3, 2, 1. It's really important to make things, mark things well, and have a system to think about things. Okie dokie, and you can move those so they don't fall off. That would be great, thank you. Now I'm going to pre-press. I'm going to make sure that I know which one is the bottom, which one is the top. I'm going to press in 1 to 2. This is really beautiful, wet, curly maple. 2 to 3. Press them in really tightly now, but this really won't get fragile, but it's just a good practice to get into. And 3 to 1. And that's just my system of numbering. There's no right or wrong system, but I always go from the lowest number at the headstock to the next highest number on the tailstock. So now make sure the tool rest is not going to be hit when this starts. And turn the speed down on the lathe. Tighten up everything, make sure everything's tight, and now we can turn the speed up. Can I get past that, I wonder? Probably better to keep it there. Okay. Now I'm going to cut a cove. I'm going to use the tenons as a depth gauge. I start and stop the lathe quite a bit so I can make sure I know what I'm doing. I still have quite a bit of wood to cut off on each, the bottom and the top. Okay, I've kissed that tenon on the top and also there. So I don't want to go any deeper there. Now what I want to do is make a cove, and probably the cove will be smaller down here so this can be a functional cup and your hand can go around it. And I want to make the smoothest final cut that I can so I don't have to sand much. So that looks pretty good. Now we're just going to go ahead. That was axis number 3 to 1. So now I'll go to what? 1 to 2. One to 2. Checking trice. Is that one? Yes.
You're parallel, aren't you?
It does look that way, doesn't it? 1, 2, 2. Very good, thank you. That would happen on a video. Now I'm not parallel. Okay, so I still have room to go on both ends, but I like to stop a lot. Still have a little room to go. Just a hair more here so I can match the amount I took off there. And I think I can go a little deeper. I forgot my trick of measuring, using the tool rest as a reference point, measuring the furthest point on each one of these axes so I can get them equal. So, too late now. I've already missed one of them. I'll try to visually do it now. Thank you. So I'll check the depth of this cove, and I'll check it visually, and now I'll go on to the next axis. So that was what?
1 to 2.
1 to 2. Now I'm going from 2 to 3. Don't let me make a mistake now. 2, and there's 3. That doesn't look right. Oh, that's 3. This is 2. Okay. Didn't think it looked right. See how easy it is to make a huge mistake? If I do get confused, before I touch the tool, I use a piece of chalk and spin it and just make sure that I'm on the right axis. So let's just spin it and use a pencil. And yeah, there you go. So that's the wood I'll be cutting off. So that verifies the fact that it's correct. Not that I ever get confused. Stop and check. Here's the axis I'm working on. I still have quite a bit of room. Good. Now I'll just clean up that. They look pretty equal going around. That can go a little deeper. That's the one I'm working on. But these 3 points are well defined. So. Pretty good. Now, what I'll do is put it back between centers. And use that parting tool. What I'm going to do now is make the tenon at the bottom suitable for a 4-jaw chuck. And I like for these points to be proud when I hollow it out, so I'm going to take some cuts that will be right at the points and go in a little bit so that these points can stick up a little bit. And I'll also do something to the bottom points. I'll start off with this. parting tool. And I'll use my spindle gouge that sharpened at about 30 degrees into a fingernail grind. I'll move the tool rest now. No, that's nice. I really like that. It's a little bit of a difficult cut to make, so if you pull your spindle gouge back a little bit and just feel where those points are and go in just a hair, it's a nice clean cut if you go in at the right angle. I'm going to do the same thing to these points here. I want to have them come up, so I'm going to curl them over and sort of blend them into the base of this. And that's just a technique, a design touch that I like. It doesn't mean there's, it's many ways to do that. Now I'm going to make this tenon even better since I just put a little thing on it. Put it in a 4-jaw chuck and hollow it. But I won't hollow it because you don't want to watch somebody hollow. And you can take any size wood. I like to work with green woods. If you, this is beautiful maple. Darker woods are able to handle darker things like cherry and coffee, red wine or coffee or things that might stain. Lighter woods are better for lighter drinks, water, white wines, whatever. But I seal them with CA glue after I hollow them. I sand them and I use the liquid CA glue. Now I've just gotten down to the technique of using hemostats with paper towels, a little ball of paper towels, but I have a lot of balls around. I'll swirl the glue around and use the paper towel to mop up. I hate the puddle in the middle. I hate that. So I'll mop that up and I'll use the paper towel very quickly just to make sure the entire inside of the goblet has been coated. I'll let that sit for a day, take 400 grit sandpaper, knock down any points that are there, and I'll do it again depending on the wood. That turns into, that's the liquid glue.
Thin.
CA, the liquid form of it.
Yeah, the thin.
Yeah, thin. Sorry, thin. And after it dries a couple of days, it's good to go. I also usually put some around the end grain on the top too. So there you have it.